Hello, everyone. It's Aunt Duffy, and welcome to Dental Entrepreneur, the Future of Dentistry's podcast. I'm so happy that you're with me today. I've got a very special new friend of mine. And before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Louis Kaufman, DDS, FAGD, MBA, is a 1995 graduate of the University of Illinois College of Dentistry. He blends clinical practice, education, and research to deliver personalized big-picture dental care. Honored as a fellow of the Academy of General Dentistry, he advances the profession through lectures, publications, and leadership. Rooted in a 70-year family legacy, his patient-centered approach inspires practice growth nationwide. His expertise, including implants, cosmetic smile design, 3D imaging, and full mouth restoration, is beyond wonderful. Fun fact, he can never get enough live music, big fan of the Grateful Dead, and if he didn't road bike, he says he would weigh at least 100 pounds more, which I hardly can believe, but it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Louis Kaufman. Hello.
Hello, Ann. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, it's so lovely to see you over Zoom and having this time to connect for our audience. I met you at Chicago Midwinter. There was like 5 people that said, you've got to meet Louis Kaufman. I'm like, okay, well, here we are. We just ran into each other, felt like.
Oh, it was meant to be.
Yeah, meant to be. Oh my gosh. I want to know what first sparked your interest in dentistry?
Great question. I came from a family of dentists. My dad was a practicing dentist, and I had no interest at first of going into dentistry. I went down the business path. I was in the fast food industry. I graduated college, obviously BA, MBA, and I didn't feel like my brains and my hands were really fulfilling what I was meant to do, as corny as that sounds. So I got to do something else. So I did some soul searching, and I looked, oh, medical's going to take me X amount of years. I'm going to be a surgeon, X amount of years. And well, I'm going to be really, really old when I graduate if I became a surgeon. I was like, well, dentistry was a good living for my dad. He helped people and got to use his hands, use his brain. So I talked to everybody but him, talked to all his friends, colleagues. They said, okay, yeah, great career. Here's your options, go into private practice with your dad or go become a specialist. Don't start from scratch. That was a really big message. Don't start from scratch. And I went and toured the University of Illinois College of Dentistry to see what dental school was about and who the people were. And I was like, yeah, this looks like it could be a really good fit. And that got me going. I mean, my earliest memories was like 5 years old or 3 years old, going with dad to St. Bernard's Hospital where oral surgery was being done, immediate dentures were being delivered. I didn't know that's what he was there for, but going to his office and the smells as a little kid and the interactions with the patients and just the respect and how people are treated. And I was like, wow, you can really impact a person's life. This is kind of cool.
It's so interesting that, kids, right? I mean, your dad's like, it's here it is in front of you this whole time. But no, you had to go into fast food, go into business, and then come back around. It must make it more rich for you that you actually went outside of dentistry before you actually got inside of dentistry for your own career path.
Obviously, I'm doing this 30 years, since graduation, a lot longer because my whole life. But for a parent to see a child do that, I mean, it was probably one of the happiest moments of his life was when I graduated from dental school. Second happiest is probably when I told him I wanted to go to dental school. I always say, kids, young adults, they got to kind of figure things out themselves. We can suggest, we can advise, give them ideas, but everybody's got their own passion and they got to kind of figure that out for themselves.
Well, I think that's the best way because otherwise, so often we hear from young adults, they went into a career path because their parents said you should go into this career path. And kudos to your dad that he didn't put pressure on you to speak of, but let you make that choice. Because so often, I mean, I hear this with some of our DO members, the dental entrepreneur women, that they went into dentistry because their parents said they should go into dentistry. You either go into medicine or you go into dentistry, and they really never had a choice in their own mind. And it's super neat that your dad let you make that choice, and it is your choice. And now that's the way you have gone forward. And you always have a smile when you talk about dentistry. I'm not saying one of the few people, but you radiate the fact that you really like your career choice. So how do you create balance as a dental practice owner? Because we know that there's so many out there right now that are burnt out, but you found a way.
I was one of those people who worked 5, 6 days a week, like first couple of years out, because I was at the University of Illinois, College of Dentistry, and working for my dad. And then I started cutting back to 5 days, and then a young family, young kids. And to start doing some searching, you need to start blocking time off in your life for personal balance. And it can't always be about dentistry. As my kids got older, I really embraced blocking out more time. So I would say probably about 14 years ago, I started blocking off the calendar. Like summertime, we take 2 or 3 weeks off. Jill and I were able to, kids were old enough, and take a great trip, Italy or Ireland. And just, you had to be intentional in your decisions. And I try to do that every year. I always close the office last week of December, first week of January, around the holidays, make extra time. And, federal holidays, we always take off. We always sometimes add an extra day. So that lets the team, not just you, to relax and chill out. I have an associate. I've had that luxury for many years now. There's a lot afforded me to take time off, allows her to take time off when she needs it. When I've had 2 associates, it's even better. But to create a balance in anything, we have to be conscious of it, make an intentional thought process, and really carve out the time. That's the only way it's going to happen. This will be the first summer we haven't gone away in a while for the reasons we were talking about earlier, which is, exceptional and blessed for that. But you have to make time for the exercise, the working out, the mental time, the reading, relaxation, going outside, taking a walk. I believe physical activity is so important for our minds right now.
That's so interesting because it is a choice that you can make. If you own your practice, even if you go in sometimes as an associate, you got to grind it out at the beginning, right? All young people, they're not that keen on that right now. But that's what all of us did. We worked really hard when we were young so that you can actually play a little bit more and be a little bit more mindful of your own time as you get older. But I love the idea that there's a way to do it. But you have to have that mindset, and you have to have the courage to know that you can take 2 weeks off in the summer and take off the holidays. I look at it now, the older I'm getting, I'm like, well, I don't know how many holidays I have. I'm glad I did enjoy my holidays. I was lucky to work for a practice that actually closed down at Christmas. But as an individual, it takes courage to close the practice down. But the benefits are so great for everybody because, you can work your whole life in what for without having the joy of that. And I think even looking forward to those 2 weeks that you take, it, makes a difference in how you practice in April when you know that you've got something great coming up in July.
Yeah, so some of the happiest dentists I see are the ones, even if it's 4 days, 3 days they block off, or they do the Monday through Thursday, they take off the 3 days, but they intentionally did that. They carved out the time to do it. And you mentioned grinding it out, and that's where I came from. Whining was never an option growing up. You did it, and, you put your nose to the grindstone.
Yeah.
You went after it. And they call it paying your dues early, made for more benefit later. And I found there's no such thing as instant gratification. That's a fallacy. Another thing, I think, some young dentists maybe make the mistake is they start comparing themselves to their peers and what's going on. You can't do that. All you have control over is what you're doing, your office, your staff, how you respond. How we respond to something is truly the only thing we have control over, or how we went after it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you just keep getting up to the bat and swing.
But I also love what you said earlier. Before you went into dentistry, you started to ask some dentists in your circle, as a kid growing up in the world of dentistry, about how they worked, how they did it, what would success look like for them. And I think so often, you get into this situation where you can't pull your head up long enough to even ask for help. And how is somebody else doing it? If you're listening and you're a dental student, you're getting ready to graduate, listen, this is a great career, and you can make the choice to block off, like you were saying, you and your son were out today doing something together. And it's like you can block off if you see that you've got Friday night football and your son's playing football, or your daughter's in a dance competition, or you can go to the teacher
student conferences or...
Thank you. That's what you can do. And like my husband and I were talking about this the other night. Thank God he decided to become an entrepreneur, because he made the decision to be able to do those things with the kids. And then, fortunately, they do grow up and they finally do leave your home and they make their own life. But we would have missed a lot of that sort of thing, with him being corporate, because he was corporate for many, many years, 22 years, I think, before he started his own company. But I'm curious about what you think, what you see in the landscape now of dentistry, the difference between private practice and the DSO arena out there.
When I look at private practice and the DSO space, I think there's a place for both. I believe, private practice, if you can go fee for service and stay that route, you really got to create a concierge type experience. Everybody talks about it, the wow factor, how you make people feel. They don't always know your clinical skills. Well, hopefully your clinical skills are really, really good. But being the place to go that stands out, because I think it's still a great career. Groups that have been part of now, like Smile Source for the last 10 years, where you have like-minded, collaborative private practice dental network that's preserving the profession, if you will, and making it work and getting a lot of great ideas. And I think, the DSO route, I think if it fills a need, you get a lot of young dentists who, if they do go that route, they can get a lot of reps in. If it's a really good DSO, hopefully they're providing the continuing education, the mentoring. That's the big thing, is the mentoring. I think we're lacking some mentoring out there with young dentists. I think, if you're in private practice, you should have an associate. Do your best to try to get one. I know it's not easy. Sometimes the fees that are being asked for to pay that associate are very high. Sometimes the associate has to say, okay, I got to ramp up my abilities, and then I can command that same revenue that the owner of the practice is generating for themselves. I think that all comes. In the DSO light, I mean, what a great way if you want to practice with a bunch of dentists and grow, but I think that you got to have a mentor in place. I hear horror stories, a young dentist going into a DSO practice, they're the only dentist. They just graduated. Once you run into a really difficult situation, what do you call on? You're going to rely on AI to figure that out? No, you need somebody who's, been in the trenches and has done it, and you can bounce that opinion off of. A commonality that I see coming up is the education part. Young dentists are going to dental school, they're graduating, they're not getting the reps that we did. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Are they trying to cram in more information? These things have to work. It's the only way you can hone those clinical skills is working on a patient. That is it. So I think we're doing a little bit of a disservice. There's more humans out there now than there were when I graduated dental school. So that means that there's more cases. I mean, we're not servicing enough people.
There's so many things to unpack there. And also the DSOs versus the DPOs, or the dentist own. I think there's a lot of different ways to get your skills up and a lot of different ways to find your mentors. You got to ask a lot of questions when you get started, and you have to set your goals in place before you say yes to certain opportunities. If you can do that, if you have the opportunity, sometimes you don't. But it is crazy when you graduate dental school now and you hear the stories of the experience they've had there and the experience they need to be proficient and reach that mark of perfection, which, is not possible in everything you do, but it seems like that's what they're expected to do. And that's a repetition. And that's having somebody be able to call on. I hope that they will change that and give the young docs that are graduating the opportunity to grow and learn from someone that's been there and done that. His experience is everything. It gets to be like riding a bike, even though every day and every patient is different. Mm-hmm. But it takes a while to get to that point where you really know how to pedal.
You have to learn how to have a conversation with a patient, how to relate to a patient, and just talk to another human who is in the most frightening place in the world, which is a dental office. It's a dental chair.
Yeah.
If anybody thinks anybody wants to be there and get a shot, you got another thing coming. Nobody does. So the more we can get to know them, make them more relaxed, the easier it is. But that's another topic.
Yeah, it's another day.
Yeah.
But are you coaching and all that sort of stuff, Louis? What exactly is your role right now?
So I'm clinical, still seeing patients 3 to 4 days a week, working with my associate on different cases, helping each other out on different things. I'll ask her about something, she'll ask me.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is. It is. Over the years, I've done some coaching and consulting work. Obviously the lecturing I've been doing now for, going on 20 years. If you asked me when I graduated dental school if I'd be doing that, I would have said, no way.
Your dad must be just so proud. That's just can he believe it? I love it.
I'm sure he's looking down or, from the side somewhere and saying, hey, good job. I'm sure he is. And I'm trying to do more writing. I really want to just, keep delving into the writing sense because, I have a lot of stories and things that I want to share and bring across. And I'd love to coach more. I love working with young dentists and talking to them as long as they're receptive. That's not a slight. I've had dentists come in as an associate and I've had to let them go because they just weren't receptive. They
Yeah.
kept telling me, well, this is this and this is this. And I was like, you've only been out of school a couple of years. And yeah, you got a lot of great information there, but one, have you done the reps? Two, have you taken the continuing ed? I mean, I got thousands of hours of continuing education. I did Dawson for 2 years. Don't tell me how to figure out occlusion right now. I mean, that's some of the conversations. You
Well,
have to be teachable.
Coachable, teachable.
Right. Yeah.
And humility is a big deal. I mean,
Yeah,
you
for
gotta be
sure.
humble. It's like you don't know what you don't know. And there's nothing like experience when it comes to like all the cases that you've seen over the years. But, we talk about CE in the pandemic, everything's on Zoom, and here we're doing a Zoom podcast here. But there's something about in-person CE that I know is near and dear to your heart and to mine too. I have a retreat coming up, and there's nothing like belly to belly, smelling, seeing, sensing somebody that's right next to you. Talk a little bit about your views on in-person CE.
I am a huge fan of in-person CE. Some of the best knowledge has been shared, just conversations with a colleague about a case or what you're doing in your office, and just having a chance, if you're listening to a speaker, say maybe it's endodontics. They're an endodontist, or that's what they specialize. I mean, you can just pick up so much. And then if it's a hands-on course CE, wow, what a better time to have that instructor, somebody who's doing it day in and day out all the time, over your shoulder, helping you, teaching you, and bringing your team along. Say when I was teaching back in the day, the Lumineers courses and the cosmetics, the docs that were successful, they brought their team with.
Yeah.
Bring some of your team. And they usually are the ones who performed better when they did that. The bonding that you're talking about, that face-to-face interaction, that connecting, I mean, that's huge. And anybody who does the in-person CE and are really a believer in it, we have a lot of it going on in the industry right now, which is great to see. It seems to be bouncing back after the pandemic. That's a huge benefit. I think with being at home, you're just kind of in your own little box. Being at the office doing it, you're in your own little cave. Yeah, it's a way to reach some people, but take the time and get out. Most areas have some local CE or it's close to you to get to.
It's not that hard to find. There's something different about calling somebody that you know through social media or even on a Zoom, somebody that you've had a conversation with eye to eye, and then that's the person. You can pick up the phone, and I think it feels right, easy, and that's how you build relationships. And we know in dentistry, it's all about relationships.
It is.
It's changing so rapidly. Every day you got to learn something else about it. Obviously, you're a learner. You completed the Dawson and then you're teaching and you've done so much in your career.
Last weekend, I was at the ADA Summit, the Oral Health Symposium here in Chicago, Friday, Saturday. It was probably one of the best 2 days of continuing education I've had in a long time.
Wow.
Really with a high amount of focus on the oral systemic connection and really honing it in. And a big theme, people always think of dentists as like a tooth mechanic, if you will. That was a term that was used. We really need to be thinking of ourselves as an oral health care physician.
You must have heard Hazel Glasper speaking. Did you
Yes, I did. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, she's
fantastic. I mean, the stories, I'm sure my jaw was sitting there like dropped at times. I mean, I'm proud. I pat myself on the back that, we do embrace this in my practice. We are big on oral systemic health, big on periodontics. We called it soft tissue management, but it's more than soft tissue management. It's, finding out about those bacteria that are causing all these diseases. It was so well done. But back to your point about the social media, and I forgot who the gentleman was. I'm a really big face person, always have been. And I said, I know you from social media. I said, I got to meet you in person and, talk, conversation. It was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah. You just crave that. So you can't get it all on your own. We need each other in this profession. I'm so happy to hear you say that is important. And I hope that if you're a female and you're looking to find your community, we're having our Dental Entrepreneur Woman Retreat in November in Charlotte, 250 amazing women. Hazel's always there. I mean, Dr. Glasper, she's on my board. She's been to every single retreat that we've had. Dear friend of mine. And there's nothing like meeting. We always say good dues find good dues, but I know there's so many entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now, young dentists that are graduating and those that are maybe middle of the career or, coming up to the end. What advice would you give now? Let's just say to the young graduate, what advice would you give to the young graduate that's looking for having this amazing career? And I can see the glint in your eye that you still love it.
I do still love it. Dentistry offers people so many options, so many ways to handle life, your schedule, blocking times off. making a really good living, working hard for it. So the young dentist, find out what you're passionate about in dentistry. What do you really like? And if you like everything, break it down to a couple items that you really want to learn more about. Cosmetics are sexy and everybody wants to do them, but not every patient coming in is going to want sexy cosmetics. Now, if it's endo you like, go take endo courses, go learn that. Oral surgery.
Become an expert, right? Become an expert.
Become an expert in that and get really good at it. Once you check that off, you're doing that really good. Okay, what's the next item that you really want to pursue? But you got to write it down. What do I want to accomplish in this next 5 years? What do I want to accomplish after that? Do I want to be a practice owner or do I just want to be an associate? What do I want to get out of this career? Where do I want to practice? What kind of life do I want to create for myself? I'm a big believer in vision boarding. It should be updated, either you do it yearly or every couple of years. You got to write things down and create it because chances are it's going to come to fruition if you do that.
And if you don't, it might pass you by.
It'll pass you by. You find yourself on a wheel, just spinning and spinning and spinning. Always try to improve your skill set. And really importantly is make sure you make time to take care of you and your family because nobody knows how long we're here for, but life is beautiful. Life is great. Go and, make sure you have fun, enjoy it. You got into dental school. You're smart, you're bright, you're an intelligent human being. Learn the skills, become empathetic and be humble. Just because we're doctors, so we have doctor, control your ego. People will love you even better. Your patients will even appreciate you more. That's one of the things I would say.
I love this podcast so much, Louis, because it gives everyone that's listening to this hope that this can happen for them. If you're listening, for you too, for those of you that are listening, because it's a mindset thing. You might need some help. You might need a coach. Be humble. And the other thing I loved about what you said earlier was do the same for your team. Help your team grow. Help your team live a fulfilling life because work is such a big part of it. And it shows in everything we do if we don't enjoy what we're working at during our days on this earth. So, Louis, you've got some big things coming up here. You're going to be off the market, ladies, if you're listening. Louis can I share the beans on that?
Absolutely.
He's getting married, and that's so cool. You're such an amazing gentleman, and I know that you've got a great bride that is just as special as you are. You've been just a joy here today. How do we get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is Lou, L-O-U, at LouKaufmanSpeaks.com is the best way to reach me.
Okay, well, we'll have that in the show notes.
If it's something really, really important, somebody needs to talk to me, they can contact you, Ann, and you can give them my cell. How's that?
Okay, I love that.
I go to sleep early. I'll say that. I try to be in bed 9:15, 9:30 the latest every night.
I'm 9:20. I'm 9:20, so we have a lot in common.
I'm up at 5 o'clock every day, whether I'm working or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're available. Okay, so you heard those times. Don't call him after 9:30.
You can find me in the car probably by 6:10, 6:15 in the morning. Central time.
Central time. All right, guys. Well, you're cool. And I love getting to know you better. And I'm thrilled for you and your nuptials coming up. That's really cool.
Thank you.
All of you that are listening, remember, the most important thing is to keep doing you. So thank you so much, Louis. Have a great month. Wonderful wedding. And I can't wait to see you on the road.
You're welcome. Likewise. I'll see you soon. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.